I love my Protestant friends, but some of them take a looser view of sexual morality than the Catholics do. The Catholics still have a very rigid view. So I think you're making a little bit of it.
Oh, wow. I didn't think he'd go there, but he's actually, yeah, is he igniting the troubles over porn? Is that what you're doing, Michael Knowles? Are you trying to reignite the troubles over porn, sir? Oh my. No, this is not a road you want to go down. Daily Wire host Michael Knowles said yesterday on the Michael Knowles Show that there's hypnosis porn out there that will turn cisgender men into transgender women if they watch it. Knowles said he was afraid to even do research of this kind of the porn while preparing for the show, lest he himself be hypnotized and turned into a transphobe. Farha Khalidi is making a lot of viral waves on the internet right now for this little clip I'm about to show you where she's debating Michael Knowles. And what is specifically beautiful about this clip to me, and the first time I saw it, was not only bringing to attention some very important things. I think it's incredibly important, especially for healthy men in the future, that you encourage men to be beautiful, proud, masculine, beauties of the highest order who are also in no way ashamed to become nurses, to become teachers. Yes, nurses, teaching, caretaking, all that kind of stuff. It's not beta. It's not soy. It's alpha Chad style stuff that everyone should be able to do. Doesn't matter if you are a man or a woman. There's nothing emasculating about it. Do you remember when cooking and cleaning is what you were told that only women are supposed to do because they're nurturers and caretakers and apparently domestic servants? That one wasn't said out loud to me when I was a kid, but it was a part of it, the whole domestic servants thing. But anyways, that's actually not emasculating at all. In fact, everybody likes to live in a clean house. Everyone likes to have a clean room. And perhaps not all women who have jobs, hard jobs, stress, their own problems in their lives, want to come home and also have to be mothers to their husbands and wipe their assholes because they're little diaper babies who are soiling themselves and covered in the feces. That's probably not the sexy thing and the thing that everyone's looking forward to do. Just like you, my dudes, I gotta be honest. Would you want that? Would you want to come home after you've done a hard day's work? You get home and the whole place is disgusting and she's just shitting there and covered shitting there. She's just lying there shitting and just covered in filth. And then would you want to have to then clean the house and then you know, clean and cook and take care of the children and then wash her after all is said and done? Would you want that? No one wants that. None of this sounds fun. Doesn't sound like a good arrangement for anybody. If everybody was capable of pitching in here and there, you can also play to your strengths. Maybe you're really good at something and she's better at something else, and both of you find a balance in order to make your lives as harmonious as possible, and then, you know, find time to enjoy all the many splendors of life from cooking and cooking. You know, this was something that was typically associated with the feminine or with women, and now it is something that men revel in enjoying and doing and cooking. Like I mean, people have always cooked as of men. I'm just saying that it's weird to gender and stereotype every single one of these. And specifically, when it comes to the workforce, it is important to point out that these are fields in which there is a huge demand. It is high paying, and if people are capable of doing it, we really need it for society to function good. I'm talking, of course, about nurses. Nurses are incredible. I'm talking about teachers. Teachers are incredible. They do have hard jobs. They do work long hours. It's often underappreciated. And then there's weirdos who will show up at fucking hospitals and be like, the vaccine turns the brain into goo. And so that sucks, right? That you have to deal with all those kind of things instead of being treated like, again, the gods and goddesses that you all are, and non-binary supreme beings of a fashion. I'm just saying that, like, it should not be something that we constantly associate with emasculating to want to participate in these fields, because again, they need people. They are very high paying, and they're also, well, in the terms of nurses, by the way, I don't want to posture and say that teachers are adequately paid. They're not. We need to pay teachers more. Separate subject. Skip all that. Anyways, I'm really rambling on to introduce this clip, but here is the viral clip in question.
There's a ton of marriages in which women are also working and then also shoring up a lion's share of the household duties, and that's why they're unhappy, because now they're being burdened in two directions.
But so what's the solution to that?
Men shoring up more on domestic duties, but they won't because of freaking tradcons and neocons who are telling them that it's gay and beta if they do these certain tasks.
It is gay and beta most of the time, I agree.
And I also think that's why men are suffering. So for instance, like the unemployment rate of men returning back to the workforce is very, very high right now, and that's because feminists are kind of pushing pushing for this like revanchist return to just like older times, and even though you claim you're not trying to turn the clock back, a lot of the solutions that men are advocating for just won't help men, because the burgeoning sectors right now are overly feminized. It's stuff like nursing, childcare, hospitality, and these industries are actually reaching out to men and they're trying to recruit them, but a lot of men will turn them down, and instead they're sitting on their ass, they're addicted to opiates. Like over half of unemployed men are addicted to some sort of painkiller. They're playing video games all day, they're to porn, which is yes, one problem, but there's so many others. And feminism is what's telling men, like, leave your toxic masculinity behind, join a nursing career, join a teaching career, but they won't do it because of tradcons and neocons telling them that they're gay and beta if they do these kind of like unwarrior-like positions.
But I do think that it's not just a matter of social construction. I think women are more nurturing.
The nursing programs and teaching programs have like put out research of why men won't join these industries despite them reaching out, and one of the biggest reasons is because they feel like it's overly feminine. Do you think that's due to liberal feminism or due to conservatism?
No, I think it's just natural. I think the men should work, you know, but they should maybe do things that they're more inclined to do. I don't think we need to conscript men to go become nurses wearing frilly little dresses.
Why do you see that as putting on a frilly dress to go into like nursing and hospitality?
Because you're using that example. You're
presupposing that it's feminine and gay. You're doing the thing.
True. And that's kind of, you know, the whole right-wing shtick is to reinforce these old archaic stereotypes because they're traditionalists, right? Why do you think they keep using the term trad? It's not because it rhymes with Chad. It's very un-Chadly-like, actually, to be stuck in your old ways. No, this is trad, tradition, return to tradition. They want the very idea that there is one dynamic alone, and that is one man, one woman, and men have to be masculine, which means that they are protectors, that they are powerful, they are warriors, and they are providers. That's men, okay? And that's what all men have to do. And then women are nurturing, you know, they're empathetic. Men can't have empathy, apparently, so that's women. Emotional, highly emotional, obviously. Certainly not logical, erratic, you know, prone to shopping if they're allowed to have a credit card or two. And so that's why men have to associate themselves with things that are manly and masculine, okay, and women have to associate themselves that are feminine. And then this dynamic will continue forever. And it's good and healthy. And it's good and healthy to keep reinforcing. And even if it's laid out to you, it's like, hey, by the way, there's something inherently wrong about consistently trying to demean men who want to get into certain fields, specifically because it's constantly associating them with things that they consider that are bad, which is gay and feminine. This isn't even unpacking the fact that there's nothing wrong with being gay or feminine. And I say that to you know, cishetes and heterosexual men and all the, I'm so straight. Well, there's nothing wrong with being feminine. I you know how I know that? Because you're in love with the feminine. If you're a heterosexual man, you love it. You fall in love with it, or you're sexually attracted to it. Yeah, so it's not a bad thing. It's also not a bad thing if you yourself embrace some of those traits. Empathy, good. It's good. Good thing to have. People should, like all people, doesn't matter. It shouldn't be gendered, you know. Empathy should not be a gendered thing. I know, radical, but that's wild. That's wild to just be like, well, yes, women are supposed to be empathetic. Yeah, men are cold, calculating, and opening pickle jars when they can or need to. Yeah, that's what I bring to the table. I thought that was funny. Especially because Michael Knowles just like, he reinforces it right away. He just defaults to that, you know? Like, I'm definitely not someone who watches these shows. I know people are like, what is the point of these shows? And these point of the shows are to usually, it's the fresh and fit format. You bring on a whole bunch of women, and then you basically try and discount anything they say or ridicule them and point out like, well, yes, you might say that, but you don't realize that it's actually men who have a much harder time in society because of women. See, the bad thing is the women. The men are the ones who suffer, and it's because of the women who make them suffer. Yes, men don't make other men suffer. It's women. And definitely economic systems don't make men suffer and women suffer. It's the women. Yeah, it's just the women who make us all suffer, which is unfortunate.
I am a law for that.
So did you want to respond?
Yeah, I guess I had a question. I do want to ask if you think religion is really good at suppressing that like proclivity for vice, and you would probably label
Not all
something.
religions, but
You'd probably label something like pornography, consumption.
Not all religions. No, just the good ones. The what's the word? Western Judeo-Christian values.
As unequivocally a vice and something that oppresses us, then why is it that in states that have the most evangelical Christians, we see the highest subscriptions to things like Playboy, OnlyFans, Pornhub?
They still have
hookers.
Playboy. Playboy's wholesome.
I'm just painting more of a historical progression. It went from like obviously Penthouse to Playboy to Hustler to now, then to the strip clubs, pornography. restaurants, things like that. Why is that most rampant in red states, specifically religious red states?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak specifically to evangelical Protestantism because I'm not totally, I'm not one, and I'm just not as familiar with it. I do know that in some of the Protestant denominations, they get a little bit more loosey-goosey on the sex stuff. Obviously.
It's an odd way to. I think he's oblivious to the question that was being asked, but why is this kind of prevalent in red states? Have you ever looked towards your own? Have you ever asked why, if you are in, like, say, a deeply religious, conservative state, why it is that they are still gooning like crazy? Why is that happening, Michael Knowles? Well, they're a little loosey-goosey. You know, things get a little loosey-goosey.
The Lambeth statement permitted contraception and a little bit weirder sex stuff for some Protestants. So I remain a mackerel snapping.
Oh, sorry. What is weirder stuff by definition for Protestants? Is that like anything other than missionary position? Yeah, doggy style. Weird. Oh, weird, sinful decadence, you say? Oh my, no, that's a bit too wild tonight.
And I kind of believe the old-fashioned way that, to quote the great philosopher Norm Macdonald, sex is a filthy, shameful thing that should only be for the purpose of procreation within marriage. So I don't know, if you say, well, in Utah or something, they're looking at porn more.
It's unusual too, because like you can just hear it, like just how much fucked up weird sexual shit is bottled into every like far right evangelical Christian when they're like, no, this is sinful and naughty and certainly not something that anyone should engage in multiple times a day.
And therefore the Mormons are, hypocrites. Okay, maybe they're hypocrites. First of all, Utah just effectively banned porn because they forced porn companies to have an age, and Pornhub, very tellingly, said, okay, we're not going to do business there anymore.
I guess my point is it doesn't seem like religion is a compelling antidote against the vices that you deem to be oppressive. If in these states that have the highest populations of religious people, your type of religion, Christian, why is it that they're indulging in these vices more disproportionately than liberals?
Well, again, I love my Protestant friends, but some of them take a looser view of sexual morality than the Catholics do. The Catholics still have a very rigid view. So I think you're making a little bit of
Oh, wow. I didn't think he'd go there, but he's actually, is he igniting the troubles over porn? Is that what you're doing, Michael Knowles? Are you trying to reignite the troubles over porn, sir? Oh my. No, this is it's not a road you want to go down.
Apples and oranges comparison. Yeah, but furthermore, to quote La Rochefoucauld again, hypocrisy is the tribute vice pays to virtue, and religion is a public thing. So we want to pray. We can pray individually. We can avoid looking at porn individually. We can...
Despite you have not answered the question multiple times in a row. It's like, so if religion is going to be a factor in reducing the amount of sin or perhaps temptation into sin that people's go down in terms of pathways, then why is it in the most religious states in the United States, by the data, if we look at how much people search and what they search for in porn, of which I'm sorry to tell you, but these massive porn sites have a huge financial incentive to research. So they've done a lot of research. So they know very calculatedly what people are gooning to, how long they're gooning to it too, right? It's not just like the single searches. And it's like, so if we look at things like, say, cucking porn in the areas of the United States where people often use it as a derogatory term, that search term is much higher and that content is viewed for much longer. That's unusual. All the states that are trying to pass some of the most draconian laws towards trans people seem to be the most obsessed with jerking off to trans people. The same thing can be applied, broadly speaking, to all LGBTQ plus topics. So if it's like, hey, they're really, really against the existence of bisexual people, but they love looking at sissy hypnotic bisexual porn in this one specific area, that's unusual, isn't it? That the things they claim to hate the most are also sexually obsessed with. That part's weird. What do you have to say to that? And it's like, well, I just want to say that certain, different denominations may play things a little loosey-goosey. I don't want to have to, throw Protestants under the bus here, but certainly we cannot speak for their particular predilections.
Or whatever, individually. But we're social creatures, and so if we live in a community that is more likely to put us in the near occasion of sin, we're more likely to fall into that. Today...
The Catholic Church is long-standing. Most of its priests and nuns are all pedos. Like, yeah, if there's ever a fucking massive international organization that is not only featuring very high rates of pedophilia, but also protecting pedophilia on a fucking systemic level, I mean, look no further than the Catholic Church.
Porn is everywhere, right? You can't drive down the street. You certainly can't open social media without that. And if there's more temptation everywhere, you're more likely to fall into it, even if you know it's wrong. And so now we point to those people, we say, well, they're hypocrites. No, they're not hypocrites. They're human beings who
they're
have
victims.
a standard and fall.
You think they're
fall short of
victims to like just the rampant porn industry?
Yeah, I think the porn industry certainly victimizes people.
Do you think porn worsened it more than prior? Like, do you kind of blame the porn industry?
Yeah, I think porn industry is awful and should be wiped off the face of the earth.
Can we talk about what consequences you're seeing since the proliferation of porn that makes society so much worse? Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah, well, you see, I mean, again, to go back to all those studies, you see a big spike in sexual aggression. You see a big spike in...
Wait. No, crime is down.
It's the exact opposite of that, actually. Yeah. It's actually got a bit of a pacifying effect. Yeah. If your argument is going to be that people are spending more time online than they ever did before, or that people develop porn addictions or addictions to porn, which is completely possible, by the way. People can develop addictions to pornography. That's just like any other kind of addiction, is you're getting lots of serotonin and dopamine released by doing a certain activity. You might want to keep doing it to the fact that it could get something problematic. If it affects your actual sex life, or it affects your ability to interact with other people or have healthy sexual relationships, then yes, it's something that you should look into getting help for. And please go off and get help, because that can happen. But there are also lots and lots of people who use pornography, enjoy pornography, watch pornography with their partners that don't have those problems, meaning that, broadly speaking, we shouldn't be blanket banning this thing that a lot of people find fucking hot. So I'm just going to say that this is not a war on pornography specifically, unless you're someone like Michael Knowles. But in terms of its ability to increase sexual aggression, no, it's shown in most studies to have more of a pacifying effect, and its access as well, especially for people who may have, let's just say, sexual obsessions that they want to then, make the rest of their problems into the world's problems, which kind of sucks. I mean, like, I'm not going to outright say that there is a reason why Michael Knowles specifically is obsessed with the transformative properties of porn, especially for someone who has repeatedly played either homosexual or bisexual or sexually obsessed characters in his canon as both an actor and a young student filmmaker, and there being a correlation between these two things. Or the fact that he's consistently trying to make videos on the fact that, hey, by the way, this pornography has shown that it has the ability to make people into bisexuals, or to make people into pansexuals, or this actually has the ability to transform people into going from cis to being trans. Yes, it can actually have that kind of effect, these negative effects, simply by the porn that one consumes. Like, the fact that he's so obsessed with that, I mean, that it could speak broadly to bigger issues, to other issues, deeper issues, of course. Without evidence, we can't make that claim as of yet. But I mean, there is quite a bit of, let's just say there's a history.
Porn, early 2000s, crime is way down.
Yeah. Well, okay, just, I mean,
and
domestic violence.
Yeah, and abortion is way down.
Yeah.
Seems like
abortion, no.
From the early 2000s, yeah.
Abortion.
Oh, these women just schooling Michael Knowles. Very here for this. I like this. Yes. What's the matter, Michael? Huh? Feelings don't care over your dick, your obsessions. It's like, look at all these facts. All these facts just coming at you fast and furious.
Is unfortunately slightly up even after the Dobbs decision, though if you go into the state-by-state data, babies still have been saved, and it's somewhat complicated.
But since porn became widely available, what's worse?
So what you're saying is, because there's porn now, people are getting married less, they're having fewer babies, they're getting pregnant less.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think everyone's trying to tell you that correlation does not equal causation, and that if you are actually trying to say that porn bad because all these bad things are happening, it's like, oh yeah, but see, these bad things that you're mentioning, they've gone down since there's been more porn, because you couldn't argue in any other period of time that there has been less porn than right now. We have more access to porn because we just have more access to information. We're all interconnected, let's say, through a vast series of tubes that run underneath. The internet is but a series of tubes. Thanks to those, we have more access than ever before. We can see it all. Yeah, but it seems like, again, statistically, if you look at crime rates, those have gone down significantly, as a number of other things, such as the amount of abortions that people are getting, that kind of stuff.
I'm just saying, if porn just made society just so catastrophic, what are the outcomes you're seeing? Because it's not violence.
Yeah, I think you would say porn is bad as an end in itself, right?
Yeah, it's intrinsically evil, but also if you're interested in some studies or something. And again, I don't even really buy studies, but I think it was 2010 out of the University of Arkansas, a survey of the most popular porn, not all porn, but the most popular porn videos showed 88% depicted depicted sexual aggression, verbal or physical. There was a study that came out about 10 years ago out of Denmark that showed that regular porn use increased misogynistic attitudes, which I totally agree. There was another study that came out of, I think it was Indiana, a few years ago, which showed that regular porn consumption was correlated with sexual aggressiveness in both men and women, which I don't think is a very good thing. And then there was another study, I forget which state it came out of, in like 2015 or 2019, which showed that porn use and sexual interactions online for women were a reliable predictor of in real life sexual violence committed against them. So again, I grant you that,
yeah, there's a bunch of studies in the
I've got my
opposite
studies,
direction, yeah.
but there, in as much as you do believe the social scientific data, there is a lot of evidence that porn has had disastrous consequences.
Pixie, you had something I think a little bit before this. Go ahead.
Yeah, basically, earlier when you were saying like, oh no, people aren't doing porn or watching pornographic content more often because they're surrounded by it, they can't help it. So even if it comes to a virtuous person, if they're surrounded, they're still going to fall prey to it. But to me, that doesn't necessarily track, and I don't want to be offensive here, but the Catholic Church, especially priests who are supposed to be surrounded by those who are holy, tend to have like some of the highest rates of like child abuse.
No, they don't. I mean, there's obviously a child sex abuse crisis. It was 20 years ago, especially in the Catholic Church.
And even recently, if we look at like the past like 10 years, like
it was fairly recent, and I think it went away. It's like, which one? Which scandal, Michael? It seems every other year it's like the entire Catholic Church in Germany. It turns out hundreds of thousands of children were molested over a course of decades and decades. And it's like the entire Catholic Church of France. It turns out hundreds of thousands of children were molested over decades and decades and decades. Hey, it turns out hundreds of thousands of children in Canada molested over decades and decades. That's not even mentioning the residential school system in Canada and how Indigenous children were abused systemically and protected by the church for decades and decades. Like, it's just like, holy fuck. I'm pretty sure this one is pretty well debunked. I wanted to see this. Michael Knowles, far-right Daily Wire commentator, has sparked significant controversy with his latest assertion about the influence of pornography on sexual orientation and gender identity. In an interview with Arden Young of the conservative outlet Sound Investigations posted on X, formerly Twitter, Knowles discussed a number of undercover videos that Young claims suggested that a major pornography company, previously known as So-and-So, is making turn their audiences gay and trans. Top Pornhub staff admits to inserting gay and trans themes into mainstream porn to convert straight men. Straights. Oh, it's not long for you. Yeah, I mean, once you see some of this stuff, apparently, it's not even like upon your third or fourth viewing. The first time you witness it, it'll instantly gayify you. It has the gayification properties, which, like, we didn't have this kind of technology before. Now it's refined. There's even audio effects, echoes, if you will. Yeah, it's very, very powerful. Very difficult to resist. I'm sorry. The interview featured claims based on a video clip by Dylan Rice, a senior correspondent, saying that, let's say that you're 12, you're figuring out sexuality, maybe in your gender would help to see. Oh yeah, I remember watching this a long time ago. It's one of those kind of like catfishing videos where they claim the person in the video works for these porn companies and is basically giving like irrefutable proof of their sinister agenda. His latest claims about pornography align with this pattern, reflect the ongoing right-wing agenda to undermine and delegitimize the LGBTQ plus community. Sexual orientation and gender identity are innate aspects of a person's identity. Decades of scientific research and the psychological understanding have led to a consensus among experts that these traits are not choices or preferences based on external influences, such as media or pornography, and that they cannot alter them. The assertion that someone can be converted from straight to gay or transgender by exposure to these certain types of content is not only scientifically unfounded, but also contributes to harmful stereotypes and misconceptions about the LGBTQ plus community. Furthermore, the idea of converting sexual orientation or gender identity is a myth that numerous psychological and medical associations have debunked. The American Psychological Association, for example, has long asserted that efforts to change a person's sexual orientation, including conversion therapy, are not only ineffective but also pose significant risks to a person's individual mental and physical well-being. These efforts are based on the false premise that being gay, bisexual, or transgender is a disorder that needs to be cured, a notion that has been rejected or established by medical consensus. In the interview on Knowles' show, Young clarified the context of Rice's use of the word convert when discussing his business strategies. He emphasized blah, blah, blah. Knowles interpreted and presented the statement in a significantly different light. Knowles exploited Rice's word to suggest that they intended to fundamentally alter the sexual orientation and gender identity of its viewers, framing it as a deliberate and nefarious strategy to convert straight individuals into being gay or transgender. This representation by Knowles plays into a broader, unfounded fear, misunderstanding about the LGBTQ+ community and how individuals come to understand and express their sexual orientation and gender identity. So basically, what if this is at its most generous? If the people who were actually working for some of these companies, what they were revealing were basically how they do digital marketing towards different kinds of topics. Say that someone is curious about a certain kind of topic, or sexual fetish, or perhaps even a taboo that they're going to go down, or a kink, and then all of a sudden, if they are choosing that, they may suggest to them other things that they feel is going to be in a similar category. It doesn't necessarily have to be kinks, doesn't necessarily have to be fetishes, doesn't necessarily have to be orientations, but this is similar to how their patterns of, this is how like an algorithm is going to work for something as big as like a YouTube porn alternative. And these companies, by the way, I in no way, shape, or form want to defend. They're fucked up, all right? They're very, very exploitative to the people who produce their content. They're very exploitative to sex workers. They can be very, very abusive. They can also post revenge porn. They had a very big problem with underage porn and revenge porn. So no fan of MindGeek. Fuck them. They're absolute fucking terrible companies. And they're also like any other capitalist monopoly. It sucks that like in every field, doesn't matter if it's fucking, hot bodies, jerking off online, or it's fucking going all the way to the production of soup. Doesn't matter what it is under this capitalist system, one way or another, it's eventually just going to suck. It's going to have just a shitty monopolistic iteration where they dominate the entire field, control it and manipulate it to be able to maintain, again, their control and stranglehold over the entire industry, gobble up all the competition. It's why MindGeek or IEO or whatever, however it's pronounced, that's why they own all of the tube sites. Like they've dominated that entire industry. They suck. Not on their team or side. But that's different than going after all these people or going after these companies specifically because porn bad, gay bad, bisexual bad, pansexual bad, trans bad, which is where Michael Knowles is coming from when it comes to all this kind of shit, right? And whenever he speaks about studies, by the way, looking some of them up, those studies usually a lot of the time also speak to the hypersexualization and the not just hypersexualization of the porn industry, but a lot of mass media, how that is done to very, very young individuals, specifically, usually and typically young girls, and that there is a problem with that because it normalizes people who may want to hypersexualize or abuse or have their abuse of younger teenagers and teenage girls normalized. That is absolutely a problem, and that is absolutely a phenomenon that has to be called out. That's a lot of the problem with the hypersexualization of very, very young people in media, mainstream media, in pornography or anything like that. That kind of stuff is absolutely something that should be called out, and that is also kind of sinister that Michael Knowles would like utilize that or try to utilize that in a way of pushing his own agenda, in that your own sexuality is somehow bad. Like it's bad of you to be gay. It's bad of you to be bi. You're only bi because you were watching this hypnotic sissy bisexual porn that just it's impossible to resist. Have you seen the dongs that they display mixed in with the hypnotic sounds? It's impossible. You cannot watch that stuff and walk away completely 100% straight. You just lose. You can feel the points on the Kinsey scale evaporate as you see every dong, and it's like, no, this is just not true. I mean, if you want to just have a healthy relationship with yourself, come forward and be like, so maybe I was personally me, while browsing some pornos, interested in some shit I didn't know I'd be interested in normally. But then when I discovered that, I was so disgusted with myself that I realized it wasn't me at all, and that it was the AI. And the AI was driving my hand and the mouse to click on those things. And then once I did, it was the AI that was trying to, make me sexually attracted to what I was seeing before me, instead of being like, yeah, that's actually doing nothing for me. But, go have yourselves a time, which would be a normal response if you see something that you're like not totally into. Oh, yeah, all right, well, not for me, but have at her. To all those who do enjoy it, I hope you enjoy and have a plentiful buffet, and may your trough always be filled, but it's just not for me personally. I wouldn't make it into a cause. If you're making it into a cause, if it's all of a sudden like a crusade, where you actually got to torture other people, I mean, that's not even that far off. If you're like, yes, conversion therapy is the one true path to be able to remove the sinful decadence of your mouse pad, it's like, well, I think you're going a bit far. You're kind of becoming the Inquisition, but it's the Inquisition for gooning in this case. Like you, sir, you are the one who seems pretty obsessed about this and on this specific topic, and how insidious it can be, and how everyone, like, even when it's laid out plain to him, like when she was saying to him in that debate earlier, where it's like, but how do you basically explain the fact that you're saying religion can help protect people from this, but in the most religious and hyper-religious states, to your specific religion that you adhere to, it seems like people are accessing these porn sites and doing searches for stuff that you would consider to be utterly deviant. Why is that? What's going on? Why isn't religion protecting them when we can directly point to an area where the good old Lord and the fear of God should be stopping? stopping that pornos.
Not
But if you-
enough has been done.
Obviously, there's a lot of media attention on that, and it's a terrible problem. But if you compare rates of child sexual abuse within the Catholic Church to any other religious community, among Christians, it's flat. It's exactly the same as the Protestants. Among certain Orthodox Jews, it's actually significantly lower. And then my favorite statistic here, though it's very dark, is that the rates of sexual abuse from the Catholic Church against children is about half the rate as public school teachers against children. So, it's all bad, but it's not particularly.
From what I've seen, it hasn't, at least from what I've seen, that's not necessarily true. What I've seen is
It's
that...
true.
well,
I can promise you.
Okay, we'll fact check later. Or right now, actually, we could. But one of the specific reasons, and I'll grant you this, or grant
I'm
this to the
curious.
Catholic Church.
I don't know off the top of my head of what he's saying is true. I tend not to believe Michael Knowles, but I do want to see studies. Study in BMC Public Health, Child Sexual Abuse in Religiously Affiliated and Secular Institutions, a retrospective descriptive analysis of data provided by victims in a government-sponsored reappraisal program in Germany. So the results, of the 1050 victims in our sample, 404 had been in the Roman Catholic, 130 in Protestant, 1516 in non-religious institutions. The overall mean age at the time was 52.2 years, males 59.8%, outnumbered females, more men were victims. A really fucked up thing about a lot of the Catholic Church, and just, the victimization and the abuse of children in general, is that like I feel due to toxic masculinity, there's a fear amongst young boys or teenage men, young adults, whatever you want to call it, where they fear coming forward about this kind of stuff because it's going to be emasculating, or there's going to be some kind of inherent, this is part of the danger of not allowing, young men to come forward when they have been sexually abused, especially if they've been sexually abused by women, because it needs to be reported on and talked about, and that atmosphere can prevent a lot of them from coming forward. Victims who had been religiously affiliated institutions were significantly older than those within secular institutions. Almost half the victims had been abused physically as well as sexually, and most victims reported that the abuse occurred repeatedly. So in this, it's 404 for the Roman Catholic Church, 130 for Protestant, and then the rest, 516 in non-religious institutions. That would, in this particular study, this is not obviously a meta-study, so I want to be clear on that before we go further, but in this particular study, it shows the overwhelming majority for religious institutions was Catholic, and that not only was it Catholic, but it was Catholic almost to the same as non-religious affiliated child abuse scandals. So in this specific study, just in this one, that's really, really bad in terms of like what Michael Knowles is talking about. A series of abuse scandals involving children have rocked the Catholic Church. Independent inquiry on Tuesday concluded there were about 216,000 victims of sexual abuse carried out just by the French Catholic Church clergy between 1915 and 22. So like I said, when I said scandal, like which one? This one, just French. Just in France. This is just in France. The victims of sexual abuse carried out by the French Catholic Church clergy, and this is just between 1950 and 2020. 216,000 just in France between this little 50-year period. Like, again, it's like, which scandal do you mean? If you look at the German one is fucking atrociously, horrifyingly high numbers as well. A series of scandals in 2013, Australian government set up by the Royal Commission. The Commission said in February 2017 the abuse took place in churches. It found 4,444 alleged incidents of child abuse that had been reported to the church authorities. The Vatican's foreman's finance chief Cardinal George Pell, then sexual abuse. Germany study, United States study. Oh yeah, the one that took place in Boston, Ireland. A lot of big ones. But again, that one's not talking towards specifics, towards percentages. Churches, like all of the corporate entities, work with the public, have insurance, but only a few insurance providers insure churches. These three companies in 2007 said they received about 260 reports of sexual abuse per year from the Protestant churches and 228 from Catholic churches. Oh, so there's some stats. And this one, insurance companies who get 260 reports yearly because they provide insurance for the sexual abuses of their clergy members, of their priests. So 260 per year for Protestant, 228 per Catholic. That was 2007. Protestantism is not a church. It is a broad umbrella under which virtually all versions of Christianity other than Catholicism fall. The umbrella includes huge established denominations like the Presbyterian and Methodist Church. That's true, actually. When you think of it like that, and you think of it, the fact that it includes so many other churches, the fact that Catholics almost are the same as like every other church under the Protestant umbrella combined. Non-denominational churches with no affiliation to a larger network and everything. 48.9% of Americans identify as some version of Protestantism, whereas 23% identify as Catholic. Once again, Michael, you're losing there. No single Protestant denomination is as big as the Catholic Church if a journalist wants to write a story, which means the Catholic Church is a massive business, has been for centuries. The Boston Globe's famous Spotlight investigation, 2002, that one profiled 100 abuse survivors. It doesn't look good.
Is that the reason why the Catholic Church has higher rates of sexual abuse compared to Protestants is not because Protestants are necessarily doing it less, but it's because the Catholic Church investigates it more. But even
they do
with
investigate it a lot. I think it depends on which Protestant group you're comparing it to.
Key takeaways about how Americans view the sexual scandal in the Catholic Church. Vast majority of U.S. adults have heard about the recent reports. Catholics are more likely than non-Catholics to say recent reports of sex abuse reflect past problems. Reports on Gwen still happening, non-Catholic. That's not really on abuse rates. He said he couldn't even research it because he was afraid of being turned trans himself. Daily Wire host Michael Knowles said yesterday on the Michael Knowles Show that there's hypnosis porn out there that will turn cisgender men into transgender women if they watch it. Knowles said he was afraid to even do research of this kind of the porn while preparing for the show, lest he himself be hypnotized and turned into a trans woman. Do you know how much money trans women would save in HRT if this was possible? Oh my God. Like, come on. Why go through all the trouble and all the gatekeeping and all the process if you could just watch a certain amount of hypnotic sissy porn and get transformed? I don't even want to look into it because I've been told, and then I've read on it in a different fora, to talk about this phenomenon, that there's a kind of pornography that is, apparently, a driver of the transgender identity that is so perverse, Michael said, that it constitutes a kind of hypnosis where men will say, I was a normal guy, I lived to be 41, 42. Interesting age range, but go on. And I was basically normal, but then I fell into this kind of pornography and essentially melted my brain. I had a nervous breakdown. Now I think that just one time? That's all it took? Just one? Knowles then said he would have to go to confession. Potentially my brain gets melted as potential consequences of watching this hypnosis porn. Knowles got national attention last month when he said transgenderism must be eradicated. Several weeks later, an older film by Knowles was trying and failing to get out of the acting career garnered attention online. In the film, Knowles plays a bisexual college student, complete with a sex scene with another male actor. But now he's hosting a radio show with guest Guinevere Gluck of the anti-trans Redux magazine, who explained more about hypnosis porn. Quote, there are many types of pornography that are sort of involved within the trans movement, but hypnosis pornography is a little bit different because it incorporates your lifestyle. So typically, it incorporates your lifestyle? What are you talking about? So typically when we get this type of pornography, we think of it as something that is passive, that you're sort of like watching this type. It asks you to sort of change your behavior, change the way you dress, even start taking hormones. This is for people who are into that stuff already and want to feel tempted, want to feel like, oh God, oh no, it's the porn making me do it. That's what the whole thing is like. That's what this particular kink is about. It's not designed to effectively convert people into becoming trans or bisexual or pansexual, because you can't do that. No. This, yes, sure, is a fetish or kink that people want to explore in amongst themselves and enjoy, most likely within the comfort of their own home. And if that is why Michael Knowles is enjoying it, that might be because he enjoys just being tempted by the very existence of this kind of stuff. Like, oh no, oh God, oh my hands are moving on their own. Oh, it's moving the mouse. I have no control. How could you, mind geek? Stop. I'm clicking on it. Now I'm watching for hours every day. Oh, there's no end in sight. It's the hypnosis, the power. Whew. Well, that was a good weekend. Anyways, I better talk about that because the old wife has seen the browser history. She's not too content. She's not happy with me. But I can say I was doing research. I was research. No, that was research. I needed to know about the hypnotic powers of this particular form of deviancy. I've got a guest. No, I've got a guest coming on. Yeah, this is real. No, I'm doing journalism. A guest is coming on. She's written a book. She's written a book on this, and it's hypnotic, devilish, and sinful powers. She's going to be talking about this. That's why I looked at it. That's why. That's the only reason. That's the only reason why.
When I did it the first time.
You couldn't pay me. You pay me $1 million. I wouldn't.
No, I love it because these poor girls, man. The whole thing with that show, which is why it's so funny, is you get.
Hold on, I'll pay you
$10,000. You're really gonna do it.
You're like 11. No, the thing with that show that makes it very funny is guys go on and they make fun of these girls who have OnlyFans who are like 18 and don't know anything, and then the guys completely destroy them, and then the girls look like dummies, and then the clip goes viral. And I felt it would be wrong to do that. I felt I might get a lot of views, but I might also burn in hell for eternity. And I thought about it for a moment, and then I thought, no, okay, I won't.
None of these people are getting into the gates of heaven. It's already been pretty much official.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Can you please hit the like and subscribe button and maybe leave a comment? It really does help the videos out. But first, the people who produce everything you see before you and make this entire channel possible: Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Puppy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Cernicus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demel, Trevbot.exe, Words Greenwood, and Travis McClinton. And also, thank you to every other person who helps fund this show. Their names are on the screen right now. It would not be possible without every single one of them. We cannot thank you enough. And if you want to join the Patreon, please come to patreon.com/theserfs and help us exist.